What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. If you want to grow something that's easy, reliable, and delicious, strawberries are for you. Today I'm going to show you just how to do that. Let's go! Before we get into planting, let's talk about the 4 different kinds of strawberries that you might come across. The first kind is June bears. These are strawberries that will produce one crop throughout the year. In the spring, around where I live, this will be in June. But if you're down south, like in Florida, this may be as early as April. The second kind of strawberries are everbearing. These will typically give you 2 crops, one in the spring around June and one in the fall around August. One thing to note though is the overall yield of the everbearers will be less than the June bearing strawberries. The third kind of strawberries are what are called day neutrals. These are ones that the flowering isn't dependent upon the length of day. So they'll actually flower in northern climates from June all the way up until frost. These could be the most productive. One thing to note is they could also be the fussiest and the hardest to grow. And the fourth kind are alpine strawberries. These are most likely the parent of the modern day garden strawberry. They're smaller and they're not as sweet as our strawberry. They don't send out runners and they grow from seed. Right now I'm in the 7-year-old food forest and these are strawberries that I planted when I first started the garden. I haven't done anything since I planted them and they've produced a lot of fruit for me. Time to get some new ones started in the new food forest. I'll take you along. Unless you're in a really warm climate, the best time to plant strawberries is in the spring, and you could plant them as soon as you could work the ground. The first thing you're gonna need to plant strawberries though are strawberries. I suggest you order bare root ones. Why is that? Well, one of the main reasons is, I know for me, if I go to the big box store, they're gonna have basically the same varieties. Ozark Beauty, All-Star, Sequoia, they always have the same ones every year. And I like to add a little variety to my life and get ones that no one else has. It's not just about that though. I'm also getting varieties that are disease resistant and grow well in my local climate. And when I get these bare root, they're always bigger and healthier than the ones I see at the store. Let me unbag this one for you. This is the Jewel strawberry. If you can't plant your strawberries immediately when you're gonna get them, you need a few days. You can always put them in the refrigerator. Just make sure you keep the roots nice and moist, not damp, not soaked, just damp and moist. But before you get planting, it's good to have them actually soaking in a thing of water. That's what I did. Before I plant the Jewel, I'm gonna plant these ones, the Puget Crimson. I've got them soaking in the water now. And look how big the roots are. Look how healthy that is. Let's get planting. If you know me, I go with the back to Eden, no-till method. So all I have to do to get started is pull back these wood chips, because we don't wanna be planting in the wood chips. We wanna plant directly into the soil.
Baby, I asked you not to keep me waiting. I told you not to keep me waiting.
You may have noticed there's some wild violet down there. I'm gonna make sure I pull that out before I plant the strawberries. That's an invasive perennial, at least around here. So we don't want any real strong competition with the strawberries when they're young because they have relatively shallow roots. So I'm gonna dig these out and I wanna make sure I get the whole root system because I don't want them coming back. They easily come back from this root. I just shake the dirt off as much as I can and then make sure I get this whole crown out. You may have noticed the wood chips are deep in here. That's because we don't want any of the wild violet coming up. In the sections that we're not planting, I don't think it's gonna be able to come through these wood chips. We don't wanna have to weed it. It's easier just to suffocate it and keep the light from it. You may be questioning, with wood chips that deep, can the runners from the strawberries actually root through? No, they can't. But when they do send out the runners, we'll make sure we pull back the wood chips in those spots and let them go through just where they're sending them. Planting strawberries is a fun process. You don't need a lot and it's not hard to do and it's not expensive either. We've had our crown soaking in the water for a little bit. Now we'll dig our hole, and what I'm gonna be using is just a basic shovel, strawberry plant. You saw the rake I was using, and I'm gonna use some mycos. What this does is inoculates the plant with the mycorrhizal fungi, which is something that I believe in a lot. Important if you use wood chips. So this isn't completely necessary, but it's all natural, and we're gonna add it as we plant. Probably the most important thing about planting strawberries is the depth. You wanna make sure you bury it about half the crown, but not this whole crown. This is what they call the crown here. And this is where all the leaves are gonna actually unfold from. So if you bury that, you're gonna be burying where the new leaves are gonna come. But you actually wanna bury it deep enough that you have all the roots down there. I'd say about halfway right here. I'll show you as I do it though. Strawberries like full sun, but they'll typically grow in a little bit of shade. That's how I have some of mine in the food forest, under the trees. But again, best is full sun if you can do it. My soil is a little loosened up because I was digging those weeds out. And let me show you just how to plant a strawberry plant. First is obvious, you want to dig a hole big enough for these roots so you can actually get them spread out. But you'll dig a nice hole. After you dig that hole, you want to build a little cone shape at the bottom of this hole. The reason you want to do this is so you can take all those roots, drape it down the side of that cone, and that'll keep the crown up to the right height that you want. And again, spread those roots as much as you can. Now that I have it mounded up, I'm going to put some mycos around the roots and then a little bit of black leaf mulch. This is going to add a good amount of organic matter, which is perfect for the mycos. That's what it feeds on, that decayed organic matter. Then I'm going to bring the roots back around it and make sure I keep the crown at the right height. You could hold on to the crown with one hand if you want. It's a good idea to hold on to the crown to keep it at the right height with one hand while you're planting. Now, that looks pretty good, and we go back with just a nice little top dressing of this black leaf mulch. So that's a nice height right there for the crown, because we'll then come back with some wood chips. Not too thick. Not about that. And that one's ready to go. The bed layout of your strawberries is dependent upon you. There's two typical ways. The matted row, which is what I'm going to go with, and then you've also got the hill system. In the matted row, you typically plant them about 1.5 to 2 feet apart, and then you let the runners spread and fill the gaps in. That's what I'm going to do here. On a hill system, you plant them a little closer, but you pick all the runners off and just keep those mother plants to have produced the fruit.
I told you not to keep me waiting. Now the afternoon is fading on.
As you can see, we were just layering the black leaf mulch in here. We weren't putting all black leaf mulch in there, just layering some to feed that mycos. I've said it before, but one thing that's so vitally important is to make sure you have a garden buddy to just break things up and make sure you stop and play with them a little while.
Belladonna, have you seen me? And have you ever really seen me? Like I want for you to see me now. Lonesome, like you were when you were 16. When maybe even I weren't listening. Did I have...
As you can see, I'm pressing in firmly a little, but I'm not pressing hard. I just want to make sure that there's no gaps in between the roots, that there's no airspace. I'll water that to help fill in the airspace too, but a little pressure isn't a bad thing. I got this row in, it was that easy. Now I'm going to get them wood chipped and then water them.
Belladonna, are you listening? Were you ever really listening? Like I want for you to listen now.
As you can see, I'm not putting really thick wood chips around them, so when they do send out runners, they'll be able to root through, but thick enough to hold in some moisture. Around here where my row isn't, these wood chips will be thick. So we're going to keep everything rooting in here. After they send out the runners, it'll be a nice matted system. That's it. Now I have to water them. Let me show you the same system, the same setup we planted just a couple days ago. Right to my left here. And the idea with this in the food forest is The first couple years is going to be a nice matted system when there's a lot of sun, and then as the trees get bigger, these will start to move out in the food forest as the wood chips break down too, and eventually they'll be underneath the trees like they are in the 7-year-old food forest. You can see these ones are already showing new growth and looking real healthy in just 2 days, I think it was. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video and you want to keep up with me and Tuck, hit that notification bell so every time we upload, you know. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button too. And check us out on Steemit. I just want to thank all of you though for your continued encouragement. It means the world to me, and that's what made me want to take it to the next level, build another food forest, and also take on this whole property. So I think it's going to be a fun journey, and I'd love to have you follow along. See you in the next one. James Prigioni is out.